at all because I can't get good jewels. Like, that's just all there is to it. I don't have much currency to roll them, can't buy any good jewels, and ultimately all of my jewels combined are worth like one good jewel on a softcore league or a trade league, and that means that my character is way less effective than it otherwise could be, and that my gear really doesn't mean much here. But there are some seriously fun situations still going on here. In this particular map, a Colosseum, it was double beyonded. There was Harbingers, there was Breach, and I was just going from one fire to the next, out of the frying pan into the fire. Kept trying to bail, kept trying to move away, spawning non-stop beyond bosses, accidentally hitting the breach, and then spawning a tool boss. And there's an Einhar in here as well with all kinds of other really good and satisfying thanks to the Gladiator bleed explosions. Those things put in a huge ton of work against most pack size content, and that's basically why I made a Gladiator, so that we can get a bunch more explosions, because I'm well aware of how good the single target on double strike is, and there's not really any need to build around that. So you can by all means still play a champion, you can play many other ascendancies and boost your single target, but it's probably better to boost your utility in the form of various defenses, so maybe a jug, or actual clear speed, so a Gladiator. So a Gladiator in this case, because the single target, like I mentioned, is pretty absurd. Now the gear is fairly respectable, you're trying to squeeze out as much damage as you can, but it's all coming in off of the Vile Double Strike, the Ancestral War Chief, and as well as that, the 2.5 seconds on the banner that gives you Adrenaline. So there is a slight bit of setup, as you can see. You get your two War Chiefs down, you pop your Vile Double Strike, and then you press your banner and join the boys to go ham on a target. Once you get your entire perfect setup happening, the single target is something pretty stupendous, and as well as that, it's can be respectable even without all of that. So this is a tier 16 Guardian. All you really need here is a few good crits, a couple of ruthless procs, something like that, and you do some pretty serious damage. And you can also see the instant leech going to work in that fight right there. Don't even have to move, basically AFK, and just hope that you don't get one shot ever, and chances are you almost never will. Divine Ire, Stormfire, Ignite, Elementalist. Now, at this stage, the character has taken on 2 or 3 Uber Elders, 3 or 4, something like that, and it is a very smooth playstyle for the Uber Elder fight once you can get enough damage, and at my stage of the character, the damage is definitely there. All it takes is one 20 stack wind up of Divine Ire, which, depending on where you're positioned, how close to enemies are, could take a little while to wind up, and that may be the most uncomfortable thing about the entire build, but if you get that 20 stack off, you will be pushing each phase just about every single time, as you'll see later in this video. So for Uber Elder and for most of the endgame Guardian fights and endgame bosses, it's a pretty nice playstyle, and the ignite damage can definitely be there to just phase lots of these bosses. It's just up to getting your 20 stack ignite up against each enemy individually that you need to hit. So as you can see against this boss, for example, you get the 20 stack going on the first one, you then kind of struggle to get your 20 stack going against a couple of the others, especially if you get stunned here or there, but in most situations and most bosses, it's really not too much of a problem to get your actual big ignite up. The biggest problem against some of the bosses were obviously the Nexus ones that have just some ridiculously crazy mods, like lots of extra damage, attack speeds, areas, avoiding ailments like my actual ignite. So there is a lot of cancer out there for this type of build, and it's not going to be a huge face roll, especially against those types of fights, but it can definitely be built into a very nice character for the usual end game, because I had just about no problems against any of that, including Uber Siri, and some deep delving too. Got Soul / Catrend, Trickster, which is a hybrid-based character, basically just life with a bunch of extra mana for mind over matter, though you can very easily do one as pure CI, or more as a hybrid, or even EB Mom hybrid with the Trickster Ghost Dance. Ascendancy, you can easily do that, but I've just chosen to go a pretty standard life mana base one and copy the starter template that I gave at the start of the league, and as it turns out, this is a pretty damn good starter. Probably one of the cheapest, most effective characters out there at the moment, because it will work all the way to endgame off of close to nothing specific at all. All of the gear is very generic and easily attainable, and all it is a bunch of passives on the tree and a few links with all of your chaos skills coming together to form a pretty perfect unison of stupid fucking damage. Now, you